There's a part of my farm that doesn't exist on any map. I know how that sounds. But if you've ever lived on a farm, you'd understand something. Land doesn't just appear. Everything is measured, marked, recorded. You don't just miss a piece of land. But I saw it, clearly. Right past the eastern fence line. A small section of land, grass, soil that looked like it had been worked before, and an old fence, like it had been there for years. The strange part wasn't that it existed. It was that I had never seen it before, even though I had walked that area dozens of times. That morning, I was just checking the fence. Routine work, nothing unusual. But when I reached the end of the path I always take, I stopped. Because there was another path. One I knew hadn't been there the day before. I didn't step into it. I just stood there, looking. The grass was pressed down, the soil slightly sunken, like someone had walked through it many times. At first, I told myself I had missed it. Bad angle, bad lighting, something like that. But then I remembered something. Before buying the farm, I checked every boundary, every line, every corner. There was nothing like this. No extra land, no hidden section, no second fence. And yet, it was right there. I went back to the house immediately, pulled out the property map, the documents, the survey lines. I checked everything, twice. Nothing. There was no record of that land. At that point, I wasn't scared, just confused. I thought maybe the map was wrong, or something had been changed before I bought it. So I went back again, and this time, it was still there, unchanged, exactly the same. But when I stood at the edge, I noticed something else. On the other side of that land, I couldn't see my farm anymore. Not blocked, not hidden, just gone. I stood still, because if I turned around, I should have seen the house, the fence, the path I came from. But there was nothing, only that land. A space completely cut off from everything else. I took one step back, and the moment my foot crossed the edge, my farm was there again, exactly where it should be, like it had never disappeared. I didn't step back in. I didn't get closer, because at that point, I understood something very simple. That wasn't part of my farm. That was somewhere else. I didn't go back into that land right away. I stayed away from it the rest of the day. Tried to ignore it. Tried to convince myself there was a logical explanation, a mistake in the survey, a change in the property line, something simple. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not the way it looked, not the extra path, but the moment when my farm disappeared. The way everything just stopped existing behind me. The next morning, I went back. Not because I wanted to, because I needed to know if it was still there. It was, exactly where I had seen it before. Same path, same fence, same stretch of land. Nothing had changed. That made it worse, because now I couldn't tell myself it was a mistake. I stood at the edge again, looking down at the ground, and that's when I noticed something new. Footprints. Not mine. They started just inside the boundary, deep, clear, like someone had been standing there for a long time. Then
walking forward, deeper into the land. I followed them with my eyes. They didn't turn, didn't circle, just went straight in, until they disappeared. Not faded, not covered, just gone. I didn't step in yet. Instead, I turned and walked to the neighboring property. The closest house was about a quarter-mile away. An older man lived there. He'd been on that land longer than anyone around. If something had changed, he would know. When I asked him about the eastern boundary, he frowned. "Nothing out there," he said. "Just your fence." I told him about the extra section, the second fence, the path. He didn't answer right away, just looked at me, longer than he should have. Then he said something strange. "Stay out of places you don't remember seeing." I didn't respond. I just waited. And after a few seconds, he added, "Some land don't belong to maps." Then he walked away. Didn't explain. Didn't ask anything else. Just left. I went back to the edge again that afternoon. The footprints were still there. Exactly the same. Waiting. Like they hadn't been touched. Like no one had come back. I stood there for a long time, thinking, trying to decide if I should follow them. And eventually, I did. One step, then another. The moment I crossed the boundary, everything behind me disappeared again, the same way it had before. Instant. Silent. Gone. I kept moving forward, following the footprints, matching them step for step. The deeper I went, the quieter it got. No wind, no insects, no distant sound. Nothing. Just the ground beneath my feet and the prints in front of me. Then, suddenly, they stopped. Right in the middle of the field. No turn, no struggle, no sign of anything happening. Just ended. I stood there, looking down at the last print. And that's when I realized something. It wasn't just a footprint. It was deeper than the others, pressed harder into the ground, like whoever made it had stopped there for a long time, facing forward, waiting. And for the first time since I found that land, I had a thought I couldn't ignore. Someone else had stood exactly where I was, and they hadn't made it back out.
I didn't stay there long. Not after that thought. I stepped back quickly. The moment I crossed the edge again, the world returned. The house, the fence, the sky, everything exactly where it should be. But something didn't feel right. Not outside. Inside. Like I had brought something back with me. Not physically, just a feeling. Something that hadn't been there before. The rest of the day, I tried to work. Fixing a gate, checking the water line, but I kept stopping, looking back toward the eastern side, even when I told myself not to, even when I knew I shouldn't. It was like something was pulling my attention there. That night, I locked the doors, not because I thought something would come out, but because I didn't want to go back. I didn't trust myself. I stayed inside, lights low,
tried to sleep, but I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that last footprint, the way it was pressed deeper into the ground, like someone had been standing there for a very long time. Sometime after midnight, I got up. I don't remember deciding to. I don't remember thinking about it. I was just standing in the middle of the room, facing the front door, my hand already on the handle. I stopped myself, pulled my hand back, took a step away. My heart was racing because I hadn't meant to do that. I hadn't even thought about going outside, but my body had moved anyway. I went back to bed, forced myself to stay there. Didn't sleep, just waited for morning. When the sun finally came up, I told myself it was over. Just stress, just lack of sleep, nothing else. But when I stepped outside, I froze, because the ground in front of the house had changed. There were footprints, fresh ones, leading away from the porch, toward the eastern fence. My chest tightened. I followed them slowly, step by step, each one clear, deep. The same pattern as the ones I saw before, the same spacing, the same shape. And I already knew, before I even checked, they were mine. Exactly mine. I matched one of them with my boot. Perfect fit. I stood there, trying to remember, trying to find any moment from the night before. But there was nothing. No memory, no sound, no decision. Just the result. The prince went all the way to the edge and stopped, right where the land began. I didn't need to step in to know. I already understood. Something had changed. Not the land, not the map. Me. Because whatever had happened that night, I hadn't just found that place. It had found me, too.
I didn't go back right away. Even after seeing the footprints, even after knowing they were mine, I stayed inside for hours, trying to convince myself that I still had control, that whatever happened the night before was something I could stop. But by late afternoon, I couldn't ignore it anymore, because something else had changed. The edge. It wasn't in the same place. I walked out toward the eastern fence again, slowly, carefully. The path was still there. The second fence was still there. But the boundary had moved. Not far, just enough for me to notice, just enough to be wrong. The place where I had stopped the day before was now inside the land, by a few feet. I stood there, looking down at the ground, trying to remember exactly where I had been standing, trying to find something solid, something certain. But there was nothing. No mark, no line, nothing that said, "This is where it ends." I took a step back, just to be sure, just to stay outside. But the feeling didn't change, the air didn't shift, the world didn't come back. Everything stayed the same. I turned quickly, and that's when I saw it. My house was gone. Again.
But this time, I hadn't stepped forward. I hadn't crossed anything. The boundary had crossed me. My chest tightened. I stepped backward again. Nothing changed. The land stretched behind me now. The fence, the field, the sky. All wrong. All too quiet. I turned and started walking, faster this time, trying to find the edge, trying to find the point where things would return. But every direction looked the same. Flat. Endless. Silent. Then I saw something ahead. A shape standing in the distance. I slowed down, not because I wanted to, because something inside me told me to. The closer I got, the clearer it became. A person, standing still, facing away from me, right in the middle of the field, exactly where the footprints had ended. I stopped, didn't call out, didn't move closer, just stood there, because something about it felt familiar. Wrong, but familiar. Then, slowly, the figure shifted, not turning, not stepping, just tilting its head slightly, like it knew I was there, like it had been waiting. I took a step back, and the moment I did, everything changed again. The air moved, the sound returned, the world snapped back into place. My house, right behind me, exactly where it should be. I turned, looked around. Everything normal again. The fence, the yard, the sky, nothing out of place, nothing wrong. Except one thing. The ground in front of me. There were footprints, fresh ones, leading out from the field, and stopping exactly where I was standing.
I didn't go back after that. Not that day, not the next. I stayed away from the eastern side completely. Didn't look at it, didn't walk near it. Like ignoring it would somehow make it stop. But it didn't. Because the next morning, something was waiting for me. Right outside my door. I opened it slowly and saw the ground. Footprints. Fresh. Starting from the edge of the yard and ending at my porch. I followed them with my eyes. They didn't come from the road, didn't come from the fence. They came from one direction only, the eastern side. I didn't need to check. I already knew. Something had come out. Or something had crossed. I stepped back inside, closed the door, locked it, stood there, listening. Nothing. No movement. No sound. But the silence felt different. Heavier. Occupied. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't turn off the lights. Just sat in the same place, watching the door. Waiting. Hours passed. Nothing happened. Until I noticed something. The map. Still sitting on the table. The same one I had checked before. The same one that showed no extra land. I picked it up, looked at the eastern boundary again, and this time, it was different. There was a new section. A small piece of land, exactly where I had seen it. Outlined, marked.
like it had always been there. My hands started shaking. I moved closer, looked at the details, the lines, the measurements. All correct, all consistent, nothing out of place, except for one thing. The name, at the bottom of the document, where the owner should be listed. I read it once, didn't understand, read it again. It was mine. Not the original owner, not the previous one. Me, assigned to that section, as if I had always owned it, as if it had always been part of my land. I dropped the paper, stepped back, because in that moment, everything made sense. The footprints, the boundary moving, the figure in the field, the way it had been standing, in the exact place I had reached, waiting. I wasn't just finding that land. I wasn't just walking into it. I was taking a place. The same place someone else had stood before. The same place they never left. And now, it was mine. That night, I didn't turn off the lights, didn't sit down, didn't close my eyes, because I knew something I couldn't ignore anymore. The land didn't need me to go back. It didn't need me to step in again. It had already changed things, already moved the boundary, already written my name into it. And sooner or later, it wouldn't matter where I stood, because the edge was still moving. Slowly, quietly, getting closer to the house, to the door, to me. And when it finally reached me, I already knew what would happen. I wouldn't disappear. I wouldn't be gone. I would still be there, standing in the middle of that field, in the same place, facing forward, waiting for the next person to step in.